Okay, ladies and gentlemen, Red Hawk recap on the road here in Boston. So same thing. Let's get our posture up, grab ourselves a beverage, and let's get serious. We're here with Dan Garner, Sean's longtime nutritionist, and Brandon Harris, longtime strength and conditioning coach. So I thought I'd get some content out for you guys. So you said you've been sleeping in?
Yeah, man. It was so weird. Yesterday's travel, and I'm used to being a hermit in my basement in isolation. So maybe the extra socialization yesterday wore me out. I normally get up around 4. I mean today I got up at 7:40.
You slept not bad though?
Oh man, I slept like a champ. This is a super nice hotel that we're hooked up with here. So this is a nice spot. So I went in, got a real quick workout this morning, and now it's time to Red Hot recap, but without Gloria Tell. It's like, damn,
I
man.
know.
Damn, I want to get that extra funk in here.
I know. People always get pissed when I don't play it. So in your basement, you just have your office and your gym?
Yeah. It's like I've got my office, my gym, and my PS5. So there's like no reason to go upstairs ever. So I hang out there, and I get all my training, all my work, all my athletes and everything that I work with is all remote. So I'm able to just basically stay there for all of my job until it's time to travel for necessary things such as this.
And you usually wake up at 4 a.m. and go lift? What's your morning like?
Yeah, I'll wake up. So I typically get up anywhere between 3 and 5 at the latest. And then I like to lift right away because I don't like... I got such a busy job and so many kind of things on the go that I don't want anything on my mind when I'm in the gym, and I don't want any acutely demanding tasks taking away from the quality of my workout. So what I'll do is I'll wake up and I don't even check my phone until I'm done training. So I know my quality session, my movement, my stress relief, what keeps me in the game, that's done before I ever check anything for work. So I'll get up, I'll have some aminos and carbs because I don't like to train fasted, so I'll get in something that's very quick digesting with a whole boatload of caffeine alongside it. And then I hit the gym, still have more aminos and carbs while I'm training, and then I just have my post-workout as my breakfast, and then it's time to work after that.
So you usually get on your caffeine first thing or the aminos and carbs first?
Both. I put them all in the exact same thing. So
it's just scoops of caffeine?
Yeah. Everything all in one shot. So I take it all in one big drink within 30 minutes of waking, and then I'm in the gym within 45 minutes of waking, easy, because there's no commute, there's no travel, there's no looking for parking or snow on the ground. I've got that problem where I live, so I'm just right in there, ready to get after it, and then the day starts so much better. Like, I'm sure you guys would agree, when you get up, the way you're able, like, thinking happens in the mind, but release happens in the body. I'm able to get up and release any kind of stress, any kind of anxiety, any kind of things that's on my mind right away. So I'm able to tackle the whole day in just such a more even-keeled mindset than I otherwise would have had I waited to train after work.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so you just get charged up. So I have a little weight room in my garage too, and I've been lifting pretty much in the nude. Mm-hmm. You do that?
No.
You throw on some clothes?
So I don't do that. No, that's not a part of my morning routine. That's definitely not. I do put on clothes before I train.
I saw your video. You had underwear on. So come on, don't lie.
That was for the video.
But typically nude?
Sometimes.
Do you have your garage open or slightly cracked?
I have it just cracked, so there's a little light. I look jacked in that mirror.
The school across the street wouldn't appreciate it.
Wait, you're doing any butthole sunning during it? Or just the kettlebell swings, maybe just a little bit here and there?
All right. Yeah. Is there any validity to that? No. All right, good. That's what I thought.
Yeah, no. That's just the most beautiful way ever to get clickbait is to post a picture of a butthole sunning event taking place. It's funny you say you look jacked in the mirror, dude, because like, well, wouldn't you like, is your schlong just hanging out and then you're flexing at the same time?
Sometimes. Sometimes. Half stock.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
Some good lighting.
Yeah, so... So with the it's just a caffeine powder that you get?
Yeah. So I'll actually use pre-workout drinks, things with certain pre-workout nutrients like creatine, like beta-alanine, like citrulline, caffeine. Definitely, I want a good big hit of electrolytes in there. So I am a fan of utilizing those acutely impacting nutrients before I train. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah, because and you never really do weed or edibles in the night?
I go in cycles. So like it's such a natural rhythm for me because sometimes I'll do it every day for like 6 months. And then for no like decisive reason, I kind of just run out and don't feel like I need it and then stop for like another 6 months or so. But with me, I'm kind of prone to anxiety, so I got to be careful with it because I'm prone to anxiety, but almost like in the same way with my pre-workouts. I like to blast off with the pre-workout and caffeine, but then that same mentality wants you to blast off with the edibles or weed at night. But I'm more prone to anxiety. So what I found is I got to kind of have to keep it nice and low with like an indica type of strand so that I stay calm, but then also have it like around 4 p.m. because if I had it later than 4, it'll absolutely reduce my sleep quality.
And then you'll wake up, because is there a lot of times when you wake up, say like 3-4 a.m. to go lift and stuff, and you're battling not getting up, or is that every time?
I get up and my eyes are like this right away. Like I am ready to go. Yeah, that's a real luxury in life though. I authentically love my job. I love what I do. I love training. Nothing like training and being physically active is like one of my favorite parts of the day. And then the fact that my job allows me to be my own boss and create original work and have original thoughts and help amazing people do amazing things and facilitate my kind of little role in that process, man, I get up and like I want to go live my life. I really do. So when I'm up and I just want to go tackle it. And then I've got a rule too. One of the reasons why I get up so early is I have a boundary rule that I do not work after 4 p.m. That's when, and people know, my colleagues know that I'm not going to answer texts or Slack messages after 4. And that's because despite me wanting to tackle all of these business ventures with so much enthusiasm, I have to do the same and be a dad. So I cut it off at 4. So like say from 4 to 9, I still have many, many hours with my girls before I go to bed so that I'm not constantly distracted by work, and I can be present in work, and then I can be present with my girls after work, and that starts at 4.
So do you put your phone on airplane mode
when I go to bed?
At 4?
No. Well, so at 4 p.m.? Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, I don't. I just don't check it. My phone is always on Do Not Disturb. So I only ever get messages via text. So the people who have my text, my actual phone number, I get those notifications, but all other notifications from every other app are blocked, so it's never been an issue for me.
So why do you think you're prone to anxiety?
Because I'm prone to ambition. I think when you have goals that don't give you anxiety, your goals aren't big enough. So I think that just because that is my mindset, I don't want to just look back when I'm 70 and say, I did pretty good. I want to know that I made an impact in blood work. I want to know I made an impact in nutrition. I want to know I made an impact in my athletes' lives. Like I want to be able to rest my head on the pillow at night and know that I lived this life and I did everything that I needed to get done in order to actually reach my potential. I think so many people don't reach their potential, and a lot of that is because they don't set goals that scare them. So my anxiety is completely self-induced, and it's because the goals that I set, the businesses that I start, and the way I do it is I'm going to cut my business stuff off at 4 p.m. every single day. So if I take on a new project, a new athlete, a new goal, then I just have to get up earlier. I have to get up earlier and earlier and earlier and earlier because I've got this concept I've talked about, I think on Red Hawk before, called extreme balance, to where people typically use balance as a means to give themselves a reason to take their foot off the gas pedal. Like, you need more balance, you should have a cheat meal. You need more balance, you should play PS5 more. You need balance, you should relax. And I don't like that. I think balance is relative to your ambition. So why can't I be balanced at a higher level? Why can't I have an excellent business and be an excellent coach, but then at the same time be an excellent friend and be an excellent dad and be an excellent husband? Excellence can be balanced at the top, and I think a lot of that is just due to your ability to remain present, maximally present in those moments. And if you can kind of sustain that extreme balance, is what I strive for each and every single day, then you're able to tackle a bunch of things. But regardless of the circumstance, if your goals are big enough, you're going to have anxiety no matter what.
So was it your dad who kind of put this type of mindset into you, or did you learn it from someone, or have you had it since college and everything?
I kind of had it because I took a business opportunity. There's been a couple of times actually, because you don't get into personal training for the money. You don't. You're broke for a long time in personal training. You get into personal training, which is where I started, a personal trainer at Gold's Gym many, many, many years ago. But you get into it because most people have had their own health transformation, and they love it so much that they want others to feel that transformation as well. Like, many people don't actually know how good the human body's designed to feel. And when you feel that every day, all you want to do is share it with others, and it brings you into the industry. So then you're in this industry that you love, that pays you absolutely nothing. So then you have to figure out a way in order to actually be able to sustain your own financial goals, your own family, make everything comfortable for future and for retirement. And in a lot of cases, this means kind of doing things on your own, because there's only so much you're going to make at Gold's Gym as a base level personal trainer. So then there's been a couple of times. The first time I left Gold's Gym, I went completely broke, really trying to build my own business. And I kind of needed that to happen to teach me the things that you're talking about right now, which is a crazy work ethic. Because now no one is making sales for me anymore. I don't have any benefits. I don't have a guaranteed paycheck. I don't have any of that stuff. So now I got to make everything on my own, and that's only ever going to come from me. And that's actually happened twice. It happened when I left Gold's Gym, and then I took this business opportunity out west in Canada that ended up not being a business opportunity at all. And then that happened again. So then twice in my life, I've had to reform how my own brain works. It's kind of like if you've got a bone and it breaks, it can heal in the wrong direction. And if you heal, like, let's say I left Gold's Gym, and then that's that bone break, that mentality switch. But if I heal in the wrong direction, I apply this analogy to somebody who went back to a 9-to-5er. Somebody who's like, oh man, I can't do this on my own. I do have to go back and just have this secure and safe life. So then that mindset breaks and heals in the wrong direction. And the only way to get out of that is to re-break that bone and heal it in the correct direction. And in order to do that, to heal in the correct direction, you just have to work your way out. You have to create your way out. And that is only going to come from nonstop work. And since I never had great grades, I never had any kind of natural gift, hard work was the only tool I had. So if I lose that tool, then I kind of lose everything, and that gives me anxiety, so I got to set goals to make sure this whole loop keeps rolling.
Yeah, that's freaking badass. I mean, Sugar and I are so lucky to have met you two guys, because there's not a ton of people who like live by what they preach, and a lot of just coaches that we even really want to listen to. We're always questioning them, but you guys like definitely took us to the next level, and like lucky to have you guys as mentors. Hell yeah. So how about your routines in the morning usually? You wake up, you get charged up right off the rip?
No, I'm a slower. Yeah, I've enjoyed easing into my day a little bit. You know, for me, that's enjoyable. So I make coffee, I sit outside, I walk my dog, and then I get going. I just think it's, you know, people do things differently.
Yeah. But caffeine?
Yeah. I'll do caffeine first. I'll make a coffee, and then I will drink my electrolytes.
AeroPress usually with coffee? Or?
Yeah, I do a Chemex.
Oh, okay.
So I'll pour over, and then I'll watch the hummingbirds and walk my dog. But that's 20-30 minutes of just kind of, you know, settling into my day. But I'm up at 5 a.m. and
what time do you check your phone usually?
Typically after that's all done, the same. Yeah, I'll try to not look at it.
How good does that feel once you start just getting used to that, not looking at that phone for a while and just giving your mind a break? Like,
dude, it's crazy. It's like I kind of compare it to like in Canada, we get real long winters. And you don't realize the effect that weather has on your mentality until you get your first sunny day back. And you're like, oh man. And then you actually can wear a t-shirt and be in the sun and go play with your daughter or go out for a walk with your dog. And you're like, you have no idea how much it weighs on you until you see the other side. And I feel like phones are similar. It's like, no, this is my phone. This is my business. I just on social media. It doesn't control me. And then when you are able to stop it and you realize how much clutter that created in your attention span, you can see the other side, and it feels amazing to get rid of that thing.
Yeah, especially imagine all the people that just literally put down their phone for 5-10 minutes and they just think they have anxiety.
Yeah.
Like, I got anxiety. It's just from surfing that thing so fucking much.
You just never have a still mind. When that's your default to check everything, your mind is never still. And I think it's so easy to become addicted to that little dopamine hit and not even realize that that's what you're doing. You're never actually present because you can't be with yourself. There's always the ability to be distracted.
Yeah, and how much, like, because nowadays with like nutrition and working out and everything, there's just everything, especially owning your own business, everything's around content. So like, how much of the creativity comes from just that silence and that stillness?
That's where I think all of creativity comes from, or else you allow others to form opinions for you. Because you can listen to really intelligent people, like you can listen to Lvl Hydration, you can listen to Rogan, you can listen to any of these like amazing figureheads who have excellent thoughts and minds, but if you hear them and you're like, oh yeah, that sounds pretty wise and cool, but then you don't take any time to actually reflect on it and see if that allows you to trigger any new ideas, or if you even agree with it. Like if you you can get caught in a loop, like Instagram, Facebook, email, and then for me, I'm on Slack a lot for work. So it's like Instagram, Facebook, email, Slack. Instagram, and then there's going to be some form of notification pretty much all day. And you can get really, really trapped in that loop to where no thoughts are really yours anymore, because in between being exposed to a thought, you don't reflect on anything or have any quiet time. And then when you finally can shut down at the end of the day, you turn on the TV, and then your thoughts still aren't yours. But if you wake up and you watch the hummingbirds, you actually have your own thoughts for that quiet period of time. And I think that's probably why research even on like 5 minutes of meditation has been shown to have benefits, because you're able to have stillness at least for that one moment.
You have to have a bullshit detector to even know if what you're looking at is bullshit, right? Otherwise you're just getting yanked everywhere. And I think that's a problem that we have today, is that, you know, Dan, like you said, is people just start buying whatever information they see without actually taking time to reflect and like, is that accurate? Has it been researched? Does it apply to me? Like, you have to have a bullshit detector, or else you're just consuming bullshit all the time. You know, it's how do you know? Like, how do you know what you're reading or what you're looking at isn't just clickbait?
Or like every single thing that you think, or every reaction you think to everything that happens isn't just what your parents taught you when you were 3 years old, or your programming from super young. But with the content and stuff, do you guys, because nowadays it's just so much just about content. You have your podcast, you have your Instagram, you do all sorts of things. Same with you, Brandon. You guys are really good about it too. You guys have like content routines, or do you even just is it just kind of spur of the moment whenever you're feeling it?
Mine's definitely spur of the moment. You won't ever see any type of schedule from me. Like some people try to do like a motivation Monday, wisdom Wednesday, transformation Thursday, or something like that. Anybody who follows my content knows that there's no rhythm to it, and that it's long form. I try to add depth and understanding to the piece of content as well, because there's a huge difference between knowing something and understanding it. If you can know certain things and not sure, like what Brandon was saying, not sure actually where they apply, in what context is that tool applicable. You know a tool, let's say it's a protocol for your gut bacteria, or if it's a protocol to improve your knee health or your knee stability, or if it's whatever, you can know certain protocols, but then apply it in the wrong way, and a tool is only ever as good as it is applied. None of those protocols are bad. They can actually be excellent, but only if they're used properly. And that's the big difference between knowing and understanding. So I've always tried to like provide the piece of content, and then in long form, and that'll alienate a lot of people, but I'm okay with those people not being a part of it, because that's just the way in which I want to be original in the industry. But providing actually the referenceable studies and the understanding behind how that thing is applied, and only do that when I'm currently excited about that thing. If I like it, with reference to your scheduling question, if I feel like I have to create content, it'll probably suck. That's just kind of who I am. If I feel like, okay, it's Monday, so I've got to post. What should I post about? There's no way I'm going to be demonstrating the most intelligent and charismatic qualities about myself if I'm forcing it. But if I feel like I have something to talk about, then hell yeah, I'm just going to post it. And that's probably going to happen twice a week.
And do you, with your podcast and stuff, do you have a routine with that?
No, not really. I'll have a little bit of lion's mane, which is a nootropic. That's
do you do it every week though? Every week the podcast, or
I'm on a podcast every week, but I co-host one called Barbell Shrugged, but I don't actually do that every week because I'm a co-host. The two kind of mainstays are Anders Varner and Doug Larson. They do it every single week, so I'll come on from time to time, but for scheduling constraints, I just simply can't do it. But I'm usually on a podcast from time to time, every single week rather. And my only kind of ritual with that is a little bit of lion's mane. A little bit of lion's mane, about 1,500 milligrams, like 30 minutes prior to. It helps enhance cognition, but one thing it really helps do is increase sociability. So like me being the basement dweller, I'm not always Mr. Social. So then something that can enhance cognition while enhancing sociability at the same time, it's almost like the perfect little pre-podcast nootropic. So I'll have 1,500 milligrams of that prior to, but besides that, there's no ritual needed because I'm just answering questions and I understand what they're talking about rather than just know certain topics. So I'm very comfortable.
Damn, I got to give that lion's mane a rip.
Dude, you'll like it. Yeah,
Is it sweet?
For real, yeah. And combine that with a little bit of caffeine. You're a caffeine guy, of course, right? Combine that with a little bit of caffeine and you will feel the difference.
Damn, hell yeah.
Is there a amount? Is there an amount, Dan, that you feel like works best for that? So I believe the layered creamer that has lion's mane, is that probably not enough then?
It's probably not enough because you don't get to see how much is in it.
Okay, yeah.
I love I think that the creamer absolutely tastes good, and it's something I use too. I use the creamer with functional mushrooms.
Yep.
That type of brand of it, not the original version. But the problem is, I'm a very evidence-based and research-based guy, so I like exactness. And when I don't know how much of it is in something, it just says contains this or contains that. I want to be more precise to ensure that I'm getting an efficacious dose. So I actually use one from, I believe it's called nootropicsdepot.com, and they have a lion's mane that's an 8-to-1 extract, and it's 500 milligrams per pill, good to go.
Yeah.
Yeah.
How there's just so many obviously supplements out there, and just very few are third party tested, and they have good labels, they look good, they taste good, but how hard is it to just make a supplement and send it to a distributor? They put your packaging and they send it out, and you have zero clue what's in it.
Yeah, it's pretty easy for a company to do that, and you can have zero clue what's in it. Like this has already been out there. I've posted a bunch on this in the past, where there's been melatonin products that have up to 12 times more melatonin in it than what was listed on the label. So something that has 3 milligrams of melatonin on it can actually have 36 milligrams of melatonin in it. And then you wake up and you're groggy and you're like, oh man, melatonin's not for me. But it's like, well, no, that company is not for you. The quality control was a giant problem. There's been melatonin found with serotonin in it, which is a pharmaceutical medication. There's pre-workouts and proteins that have been identified to have anabolic steroids in them. There are fat burners that have been identified to have illegal stimulants in them, so that there's no fat meth addicts, right? So there's illegal stimulants in there to keep you moving and keep your appetite reduced. People have been, that's like the history of the industry. So many supplement companies have been flagged for so many things, and a lot of fighters have run into that, and it happens so often that you can just kind of say that and everyone's like, yeah, supplement companies are garbage. That happens a lot, so what you want to look for is third-party testing. That is what you would want to see on the label. You would also want to see something called CGMP, which is Certified Good Manufacturing Practice. Those are two things that you'd want to see. And then the third one that you'd want to see is NSF. If you're NSF certified, you know exactly what's in that bottle. The problem with NSF, though, is professional athletes have to take things that are NSF certified. But the problem with it on the back end is it's very expensive for supplement companies to get NSF certification. So it chops into their margins a lot. And if you've looked at the price of supplements lately, like things like creatine kind of just keep climbing. Whey protein keeps climbing. Like a lot of supplements keep getting more and more expensive because the raw materials are getting more expensive, and the companies on the back end, their margins are just getting smaller and smaller and smaller. So even if it's a good company, they can still not want to do NSF purely because NSF kills their margins.
Because NSF, is it just a person that goes to the warehouse and he checks out everything and then it's like certified?
Yeah, and ensures that we'll actually have the product tested to ensure that the exact ingredients are that are listed are in the product, and that the exact amounts that are listed are in the product within a reasonable means. So that's getting NSF done, but it is quite expensive. So
I wonder how much it runs for an NSF certification. No clue.
I think it's in the hundreds of thousands of dollars.
It's a lot, man. Yeah, because good companies don't do it. Reputable. So what they'll opt for is third-party tested. But the problem with a guy like Sean is nah, it's got to say NSF. Or else the UFC is going to be pissed off. And it's well, then you just can't take it. Mm-hmm. Yeah. But the supplement industry is interesting, man, because you need high quality stuff, but then you also need to ensure it applies to your context. There's still so much to learn, to where if you don't, a tool is only ever as good as it is applied. So if you use the wrong supplement at the wrong time, it may be a good supplement, but then you just used it poorly and it's not going to work for you.
Mm-hmm. So you guys don't really have to stress about content too much, just because you're so good at what you do and it's mostly word of mouth. Yeah. Almost for both you guys.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's easy to get pulled in that direction, right? And then you're playing that game, and that's not the game you want to play. So I'd go back to just understanding who you are and what your market is. It's like Dan was saying, how I interpreted what he said was that his market are intelligent coaches, or people that want the long format coaching or the long format content. So he's not worried about the clickbait person, right? And I try to operate in that same space, but not gonna lie, it definitely from time to time pulls me in, and I would start judging myself and I need to do more. Mm-hmm. But I think it just comes back to understanding your market and who you are and who you want to affect, for sure.
Yeah, what I would have to say on that is if you're making content for someone like Brandon, you're not trying to be popular. You're trying to be a leader. Not every leader is going to be popular. Mm-hmm. But the ones who are popular are the ones that kind of get caught in current trends. And then when you look back on someone's, the legacy that they left, it's that guy was a keto guy, and then he went vegan, and then he started fasting, and then that guy actually just dropped his entire reputation into every bucket that was currently hot. Mm-hmm. But a leader would actually review good data and have their own thoughts, their own creations, and move forward with what they believe should be leading from the front. And that's kind of how I've always tried to create content, leading from the front and trying to be a leader rather than being popular. Mm-hmm. If those two things go together, then fine. But seeking popular is a bad road to follow.
Yeah, for sure.
Well, I want to ask you this, because you're around a lot of influencers, right? And I mean, you're even yourself one. Do you feel like at the top, I'm sure it's case by case and individual, but do a lot of those people, do you feel like they're anxious in the wrong reason? It's more about them keeping up with the Joneses type of mentality. It's stressful to be, if you're getting millions of hits per post and all of a sudden you're not, is your identity wrapped up into that? I mean, I get it depends, but
I think so, and I've asked a lot of them that question, because once you get a video 1.5 million, 2 million, then you need, and then they try to keep upping it, then keep upping it. It's where is that gonna end? And it seems like a lot of them do have a lot of anxiety, and the ones that aren't famous for anything, it's they don't really have a purpose besides just keep grinding on this content.
Famous,
there's nothing really they're passionate about or love doing. That's why I always try to influence those guys to get into jiu-jitsu, get into something that gets your mind off it, because that's what I always think too. I'm it would be great to be on YouTube, but I'd rather be popping on Patreon where all my people are, compared to just popping huge on YouTube.
Yeah.
I feel like that would just get stressful, but I do see that a lot with those guys. It seems like their anxiety, they don't look super healthy. But I remember we found Paul Chek, I don't know how many years ago, and he talks about these 6 foundation principles. I think it's thinking, breathing, eating, drinking, moving, sleeping. And if you have all those dialed in, then you're probably going to feel pretty good.
Yeah.
Do you do any breathing type exercises or much, or?
No, I don't. I'm pretty bad at that, actually. I almost like the opposite of Brandon. When I start my day, I'm just spastic.
Ready to max on deadlifts.
Yeah, I just am. That's just how I wake up. This how and then after training is when I almost like have to get that release out in a way. Like there's this pent up thing, and then in order for my day to have more control in it, I need to let that beast out early. And then like I trained before I got here. I wanted to train before I got here. Had to happen. I got up late. I still went downstairs and trained. So that's got to happen. But in terms of like breathing and meditation, I don't do a whole lot of that. I think that though, I don't think that you have to be in an orange robe and oming in order to be meditating. Like I actually consider, I love walking my dog Lucy. And I don't bring earbuds. I don't listen to anything. I'm in the sunlight. I'm taking big nasal breaths as I'm going, and I'm just walking Lucy through the neighborhood, and then we go through a forest path. And I absolutely consider that a form of meditation. I'm moving, sure. I'm not doing any controlled breath work, but I have me time. I've silenced my mind. I'm reflecting on things that happened in the day. I'm not distracted by my phone. It's left at home too, so I don't do any traditional form of meditation, but I definitely do that. But also to kind of go back 1 second to the chasing the next high, I think a lot of that comes down to self-identification too. Like, because you see this in the fight world, to where they define themselves as a fighter. So then when they get older, they keep going back for that fight. We've seen that example a bunch of times because they keep going back for that same high because they've identified themselves as a fighter. But if you identify yourself as someone who does fighting, then I think that you can find fulfillment in other things. Like if you were we were talking about content. Like I am Dan Garner and I make content. Like those are kind of two separate things, not I'm Dan Garner, the content creator. That's the same thing. If you're able to kind of get fulfillment from other things in life like jiu-jitsu, then instead of just self-identifying to the pursuit that you're on, then I think that you're going to be able to escape that rat race for the next dopamine hit. And it kind of ties in to your question on breath work and meditation, because I think that actually is the one moment of the day that allows you to truly be yourself, to truly find yourself. And that's what kind of separates you and gets you out of the race, because you're eliminating the noise and the distraction that is the race.
Yeah, we talked about it, I think it was on Bradley Martin's podcast, but how hard that is for fighters, because literally every person you run into, your hometown, everyone, the first thing they say to you when you talk to him is, when's your next fight, or about this fight, he's the fighter. And then you almost have to be brainwashed to be at a high level of fighting. You have to be training twice a day and just be so focused and disciplined for 10, 15, 20 years. And then when that's about to end and you have to move on to your next life, it's hard for people to do, to not define themselves as a fighter, for sure. What about hydration? You keep track of your hydration really, or are you just trying to sip quality water, or how do you do that?
Yeah, I think that I just try to have some good water throughout the day. I don't sweat a whole lot, so it's not something that's a big critical issue for me, because I've got a desk job and I'm in my basement, and my basement's cold, and I train in the basement, and the basement's pretty cold, so my sweat rate is not very high at all. So long as I'm consuming good water throughout the day, and then I have my electrolytes during training, I'm good to go. But as a broad principle for a lot of people, about a half an ounce of water per pound of body weight a day is a great place for them to be at. So if you're 200 pounds and you have half an ounce of water per pound of body weight a day, that's 100 ounces of water per day on a non-training day. When you train, you would still want to add fluid on top of that, which is really important for guys in Arizona, because you're going to have that non-training day intake, which is going to keep you hydrated. But then when you train, the weather variance is a lot. If Sean's going to run outside, or if he's going to train in a warehouse where the doors are open, or if it's hot in the gym and the AC is not working, that's a lot of fluid loss. So I actually want guys to just continue drinking plenty during training. Typically, you'd have about a 2-to-1 ratio of sodium to potassium, and then another ratio down to magnesium. So if you would have, say, 200 sodium, 100 potassium, 50 magnesium. That 50% breakdown as it goes is the typical composition of sweat. So if you're able to have that kind of electrolyte blend within your drink, but then bump that up based on your own needs and your own susceptibility to cramping, then you're going to be in a great spot for hydration. So I like to kind of get a good hydration hit upon waking, because I think we haven't drank in a long time, and it's good to get that hit in the morning, and then again when I'm training.
Is there much science out about like quality water, like different pHs versus most of the bottled waters, like purified water and stuff?
Not a lot of good science in favor of that water, to be honest. The water seems to be water so long as it's clean. If you have electrolytes and you have, say, like in terms of someone talking about like alkaline water or something like that, but biology responds to averages over time and not acute events. So if someone wants alkalinity from their diet, well, the primary alkaline driving nutrients are magnesium, calcium, potassium. So you can get that from spinach. It doesn't have to be from water. And since your body sees a totality of nutrients across the day, and pH is homeostatic and not something that's going to acutely change based on what you're currently drinking at that point in time, so long as you're having clean water, and of course it can't have like hormones and stuff that we know some water does have, or heavy metals from shitty plumbing. I've done a lot of lab analysis on people, and I've identified things like lead and mercury and stuff in their blood from
just faucet water.
Yeah,
like Phoenix. Oof.
Yeah, dude. There's people who have been drinking plumbing water that got installed who knows when, many decades ago, and are just not doing any lab work. Like if you pooled 100 people and then said, when was the last time you got your heavy metals tested, probably 0 of them would say yes. I think you'd have to pool maybe 1,000, 5,000, 10,000 for someone to finally say yes.
So a disease could be just slowly growing over time.
Yeah, absolutely. Like when I'm working with Suga, I assess over 500 biomarkers in him every time we do labs. That's blood, urine, saliva, and stool analysis, to where his vitamin and minerals, his hormones, his gut microbiome, his heavy metal status, his brain chemistry, his electrolytes, you name it, I'm going to measure it, manage it, and design a protocol for it. So there's nothing he doesn't know about his physiology every time we kick off one of those labs. But then the average person just simply doesn't do that. A lot of them don't even get basic blood work. And you can derive a ton of information from basic blood work as well. But yeah, man, that's something that I think a lot of people just slowly manifest issues over time, not because they're not doing anything wrong, but because they just don't take any time to look underneath the hood and get some lab work done.
Yeah, so who knows? If you get some lab work done, that could literally just be saving your life.
That happens all the time, man. So check this out. Something like homocysteine. It's a biomarker on a basic blood lab. Anybody can order homocysteine. It's cheap as well. The reference range regularly goes up to 18. Okay? And this is a big reason why I've had to create my own proprietary reference ranges over the past 10 years or so to define optimal versus normal. But at 9.47, if you are for homocysteine, you trigger an increased risk of a cardiovascular event. At 10, you increase your risk of hypertension, and also at this point, it becomes an oxidative stress marker. So you've become inflamed. At 11.84, now you've triggered an all-cause mortality risk. Okay? And then at 15, now we're at risk for dementia and cognitive decline. Yet regularly, the reference range goes up to 18. I've even seen as high as 20. But at 9.47, cardiovascular risk. 10, hypertension and oxidative stress. 11.84, all-cause risk. 15, dementia and cognitive decline. Okay? And then someone can be in this zone, and then what happens? Well, I'll call you if I see anything abnormal. Click. And then just never get told.
What causes that? What's like the trigger for that marker to get that high?
It's a lack of B12 and folate. So this actually can be its own performance marker on the back end. So if someone lacks B12 and folate, they lack the ability to do something called methylation, which is basically the liver clearance of this homocysteine back to a healthy level, which should be between 5.5 and 7.5 would be considered optimal. And that's like a whole nother can of worms by itself too, because normal ranges are based on statistics and not optimal health. So we're actually chasing statistical norms based on populations
that are unhealthy.
If the more unhealthy we get, the wider and wider these ranges get.
Is the poor food quality, like, is that at the base of that our soil, and like if you could go back however many years, hundreds of years, would we still have those deficiencies? On average, I guess, is what I'm like what is the main, I don't even know if you can say that, but if somebody's eating a balanced diet and they're having fruits and vegetables and proteins, and would you still see that marker potentially? Is it a genetic thing?
So basically, if you have a very high quality diet with high quality fruits, vegetables, and meats coming in, you're going to have enough of the nutrients in order to properly methylate that homocysteine. So someone lacking a poor diet, which is many people these days, eating things that drive dopamine reward rather than getting the dopamine reward from being healthy and actually accomplishing a lot in life and feeling great in your body. That's a big issue with health these days. But even though I'm a nutrition guy, I think a giant issue with health is actually sedentary behavior. Like the more and more our technology like gets groceries, like we can just get groceries delivered to us now. We don't even have to go to the grocery store. You don't have to do anything anymore. You don't have to do anything. So even though I'm a nutrition and lab guy, I just think like Brandon, if somebody goes from complete sedentary behavior and then just does 2 total body resistance training sessions a week, and that's it.
And walks their dog.
Yeah, right? And walks their dog in the sunlight once a day.
And puts their phone inside. Yeah.
Bro, not even the phone, like just like the resistance training and the dog walk. What kind of effects do you think that you would get from somebody?
A lot.
A ton.
Yeah, you're not going to be a world champion fighter, but you're gonna you're gonna feel a lot better, right?
Yeah. I'm talking just context, complete sedentary. Because if you get those total body resistance training sessions, and you're gonna be more insulin sensitive, your inflammation is gonna go down. Many of the longevity markers, like leg strength and hand grip strength, they're strength associated. So like longevity things tend to go up. Your ability to deal with sugars is more effectively. Like all of these things, your mobility, and because you are more mobile and your strength quality allows you to do more things in life, you're probably going to pick vacations that aren't just all-inclusive resorts. Like you will go on a safari. You will go hiking. You will do this other shit, whereas your old body prevented you from doing that other shit. So like your own fulfillment can go up too. Like I really think that just some resistance training is like one of the best things that someone can do to give them momentum to change their nutrition. So a lot of people will exercise before they'll change their diet. For sure. Diet's a tough one.
I mean, I think I go back to kind of big principles, and I agree 100%. And I go, for me, meditation, which doesn't have to be formal, could be walking my dog. What I find is it really teaches you to evaluate yourself, to look at yourself, which then can lead to those type of changes. That type of awareness can at least start to drive you in a direction where you might not pick McDonald's anymore. And you learn to feel yourself, which is resistance training for me. It's like the ability to embody yourself can start to lead you down those paths, right? So it's so simple, but yet it's also extremely difficult when you're habitually doing the shitty things constantly. And
then like all the people around you are doing those shitty things too.
Yeah, you have no reference. It's like, again, your bullshit detector is not turned on because that's what you did growing up, and right? Yeah,
that's really like a big reason why we even started our podcast, because we do healthy stuff, we feel really good, so we want to tell people how we feel really good and just do healthy shit and just add comedy in there too. But okay, I'm gonna still on Tim Ferriss's questions. If you could go back to your 18-year-old self and tell him something, what would it be?
Oh Jesus. If I could go back to my 18-year-old self and tell me something.
If it was like, stick with this, or what would it be for you?
Oh, man. That's tough, dude. Something to do with the ego would be I would have to think about this for some time, but the ego destruction would definitely be a good one. I think, honestly, that's why people it's not just the exercise at jiu-jitsu that changes people's lives. It's the ego destruction that happens while you're there, too.
For sure.
You get, like, that. There's a huge component of that where, like, oh, wow. And you view everything different that way, not just the mats. Like, when you have, like, in my industry, and Brandon will see this as well, like when you're beginning in the industry, you don't really know anything, so that your confidence is low. And then when you're like 3 to 5 years in the industry, your confidence is way too high because you think you know more than you actually do. And this is peak ego season. And then as you continue in the industry and the industry beats your ego back down a bit, you end up moving into like older wise man kind of days. I mean, the jiu-jitsu is the best about that. Even me at black belt, we'll own the academy. I'll go in there with one of my toughest students and they might catch me and I'll be like, all right, I'm not the man. This belt don't mean shit. I gotta still show up and like fucking prove it. So I do like jiu-jitsu is the best in that, because it's like
if you're in there, you got to prove it. You can't just be smart. You got to just prove that you're scrappy. But sorry to interrupt.
No, you're training probably with a bunch of killers just here in Boston, right?
Yeah, I mean, I think it was yesterday. Taquino said he has a black belt world champion. He said they're having competition training, and that's 6 a.m. our time. Yeah. I'm like, fuck. So we went over there and we did 7 6-minute rounds with them, and it was good.
Yeah, man. So there's that. Jiu-jitsu is beautiful for that, and I've been in and out of martial arts a bunch in my life too. So that's those ego hits. They're very good for you. But I would say,
so 18, you'd say about the ego hit. Because at 18, I was getting beat up in wrestling. I was getting my ass whooped in a lot of different places. So I was insecure. So that's why I wanted to keep training. For you to say that the ego hit, how would you do it when you were 18 though? What would you tell yourself?
Oh man, I feel like I'm running short on the answer for this because this is fucking tough. Yeah. And Brandon, do you have a good answer for this one?
Well, I think it's important to realize that everything we've gone through got us to this point. Yeah. So it's kind of an interesting question when you think about that we wouldn't have that perspective if we didn't struggle. But I agree. I think authenticity of self, which to me probably encompasses all of that, of like, if you really are looking to grow, you have to be honest with yourself. You have to have some type of acceptance of where you are. And acceptance isn't passive. It's actually, you can attack that. But I mean, I'm 42 years old and I feel like I'm still learning to really look at myself and have some honesty of like, I want to change these things. And then how do you integrate it? But yeah, an authentic view of self constantly, because we're constantly changing. So that's not something that you achieve and then you're done. It's a process that I think we have to always embrace, or we always should be looking at ourselves, because we're constantly in flux. So authenticity of self, which the ego definitely plays into that. That's what it is. And then
would your 18-year-old self understand that, or even?
So that's what I think about is, as a coach, my ability to have that connection and to open those doors to younger people, I enjoy. So if I would have had a mentor, which I didn't have at 18, could I have embraced it? Probably not, but at least that door would be open earlier. But that's my path, right? My path is to get here. I think about this a lot. And then I get the opportunity to share that with other people, and they get to do what they want with it.
Yeah.
You know? Yeah.
I think at 18 too, there's just so much pressure. Your parents want what's best for you. So there's so much pressure to make them happy, and you're deciding like, what do I really like? But I should do this if I want to be successful, because that's what they've taught me. Yeah, that's a tough question. I'd probably tell myself, just, it'll be okay. Don't stress so much, and just do what the fuck you like to do.
I think I would probably need the it'll be okay thing, to be honest. Yeah, because I didn't have, like you talked about, having a reference point of people around you helping you out. I didn't really have a lot of that. So I think the it'll be okay thing would have been big. But also the, like, you can fail at doing something you don't even like doing. That's something I might have been able to understand at 18, because when I think about what could I have understood at 18, it's not a lot. Like, even like only, when I was 25, I consider like, geez, I can't believe I said that when I was 25. But looking back at it, I'm 34 now. But when I was 18, going after something, because I have friends who have taken jobs that aren't their passion, and then they got laid off for it. So you can fail at doing something that you didn't even want to do. So you might as well go after the thing that actually gives you fulfillment.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. Let's go over a couple of these Lvl things and see what kind of your thoughts on them. Lvlism on Twitter is pretty good. He goes over a bunch of stuff. But this one says, the overeducated are worse off than the undereducated, having traded common sense for the illusion of knowledge.
Yeah, we talked about that before.
Did we?
Yeah, but that's a good one. Yeah. So read it one more time.
The overeducated are worse off than the undereducated, having traded common sense for the illusion of knowledge.
I don't think that's an absolute statement, because you could have educated that are insightful and authentic. Mm-hmm. So I think there's a lot of context in that, depending on. You almost have to have them in front of you and say, like, okay, break this down a little bit more.
Yeah. He does a lot of those quotes like that.
Yeah.
The overeducated, what triggers my mind with that is podcasting, actually.
Yeah.
It's like podcasts are an amazing thing, but they've confused the hell out of so many people.
Yeah.
Because I'll get somebody who like wants to do every single Andrew Huberman routine upon waking.
Yeah.
It's like, dude, get in the gym and train. Shut up. Like, just go do stuff. Because someone, they have so much information that they don't know how to apply it all, but not all of it is applicable to them, and they don't even need to do it all. So
Yeah.
even if you ask someone like Huberman himself, he'd be like, don't do all of that. Your morning routine doesn't need to be 10 different things. You don't need to wake up, do a gratitude journal, and then meditate, and then do breath work, and then get sunlight, and then sprint, but then do this stuff. Like there's so many things that you can do to where people who are at a novice trainee level are trying to apply them, and it makes no sense at all. So I think that like when you're trying to create content now, the way in which you can differentiate yourself from other podcasters is you have to sound different. And in order to sound different, sometimes podcasters will go down the lane of creating a protocol that's very advanced, but then they kind of fail to mention the unique context at which that advanced protocol applies. And then you get this person sounding different. So like, oh, maybe I got to do that. That's new. I've never heard that before. And in almost all cases, people message me with this stuff, and it doesn't apply to them. So then you have an information and education that just gets in the way of common sense. Bro, you're still eating shit. Don't worry about that.
Yeah.
Get the big rocks down first, and then deal with that way down the road when it's actually applicable.
Yeah. I would think of that as the idea of the knowing of not knowing. That wisdom is the process of looking for wisdom, and if you're overly educated and you believe you have all the answers, then you're stuck, right? So it's the classic your cup is overflowing. Like if your cup is full, how am I going to embrace what you're telling me? I think I have all the answers, so why should I listen to you? That's how I would probably interpret that. Is if your cup is empty, then I have room to take in your information, Dan's information. I'm actually trying to hear you guys and feel you and understand you, rather than just I have all the answers and I'm just looking to talk. Like I'm just like waiting to get my to throw my information out.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, you see that in jiu-jitsu too. People get a black belt and they open a school, and then they stop like studying videos or getting competition training somewhere else or train with other black belts. They think I'm a black belt now.
Yeah,
it's like, dude,
doctors are horrible at this typically because they're so educated, and they're, especially in our Western model, they have this specialization that they hopefully are good at, but they know nothing else, but they assume they do. Right, they'll give you advice on something that's not even their expertise, because they're probably, a lot of that is how our society looks at them. We put doctors up on a pedestal, and we grow up thinking they have all the answers.
And they learned that maybe from a book that was written in the 1980s, but the professor taught it to them, so they think that's the answer.
I just think they're such specialists. They're such specialists that their knowledge base is not very broad.
Yeah.
Right. So like they don't understand what Dan understands about blood work. They would miss that marker. I don't remember what it was, but your doctor would look at that and they wouldn't catch it. Mm-hmm. So then you have, like a person is risking of having Alzheimer's early. Yeah. Because they didn't understand it, but they didn't think to tell that same person, hey, go talk to Dan. They wouldn't catch it.
I think a lot of it does come down to receptiveness of communication, though, too, because we do need specialists. Yeah. That still needs to exist. Like, for sure. Holism requires reductionism to advance, but reductionism requires holism to remain relevant in the real world. You need kind of both of those. Reductionism is what moves holism forward, but holism is what keeps reductionism relevant to the real world. You need both at the same time, but if you don't have a receptiveness of your ability to listen and communicate, like you were saying, and be able to actually continually learn, then both industries stop. Both of them stop because they're not communicating with each other, and you see that a lot in strength and conditioning, in human performance, in health, is that people kind of have their little silos that they stay in, but you have to keep taking courses, and you have to keep traveling too. You need to travel and keep taking courses, because it's very difficult to just be creative. Even a creative person, it's very difficult to just be creative, because you only know what you're exposed to. So if you only know what you're exposed to, it's very difficult to create on top of that. But if someone else whom you're willing to listen to sparks a new idea from a course or a seminar or a symposium or a podcast or whatever it's going to be, then you're able to continue that conversation and move forward as a hive rather than as individuals.
Yeah, it is wisdom which is seeking for wisdom. That's what I like that, because that's what you're saying. Like, a person that is open to learning, that's a wise person. A person that I have all the answers, they're stuck.
Yeah, I mean, and you think it just the levels of different things. Like, there's a black belt, but then there's a taquino black belt. There's a nutritionist, then there's Dan Garner, then there's like strength coach, then there's you. So there's just such different levels of things. But we'll move on to this next one. This is from Professor Feynman. Feynman. He said, if you're a student, open this. It's important. The first one, he says, your intelligence is not determined by your examination of grades, but your willingness to learn, your ability to think and solve problems. Second one is embrace the uncertainty. Don't be afraid to ask questions. Third, study hard what interests you the most. So in school, when you were going through school, was there things that were just not interesting to you?
Yeah, and that's why, like, I routinely got bad grades in elementary school and in high school, just because I simply wasn't interested in it. But then the moment I was exposed to something I was interested to, human physiology, going all in on it, like that's something where I'll do that on a Sunday. That's something that actually gives me energy. It doesn't take any energy away from me. And then I also knew, like, there was a lot of people, and I'm sure you guys can echo this as well, who got great grades and then didn't end up being successful or happy. Like, I don't think that that's a clean correlation. Having great grades equals success, or having great grades equals happiness. But I absolutely think studying hard and what you're actually interested in will lead to both.
Yeah, for sure. But same. Sugar and I both, it's like we have a hard time listening to a lot of people and just trusting people. We always want to think about what's best. That's why we're so lucky and would not be here without you guys. Like, you're such a huge part of the team, and Brandon's such a huge part of the team. So thankful for you guys. We got media day today for Sean, and I think he's about 11 or 12 pounds over. Everything's going smooth, and you guys did so good this fight camp. Thanks so much.
Yeah, man, that gratefulness goes both ways, dude. We've learned a ton from you. The way in which the team has moved forward as a whole has been incredible. And yeah, Sean's weight's on point, man. Everything is I'm real excited. This week's going awesome.
Yeah, I truly believe that, like, we have the best team of coaches out there, and thankful for that. So anything else, boys?
Not from me. I think this is solid, man.
Yeah. Thank you guys so much. Hit the like and subscribe button. Hope you guys enjoyed. You can find Dan Garner at Dan Garner Nutrition on Instagram, and then Brandon at Higher Human Performance on Instagram. Check them out. You won't regret following those guys. Thanks for watching, guys. See you next week. Love you. Bye-bye.